The bridge of the ISC, Horizon, a sleek interstellar council exploration vessel, hummed with subdued activity. Monitors flickered with data streams, and the faint melodic tones of Ava, the ship's AI, echoed through the chamber. Unidentified debris field detected, Ava announced. Composition suggests metallic alloys inconsistent with standard council technology, which typically employs bioreactive materials and adaptive nanostructures. Origin unknown. Captain Cabo Zoam, a towering figure of ursine stature with streaks of gray fur framing his angular face, stood at the central console. His dark eyes narrowed as he regarded the holographic display of the debris field stretching across a few light seconds. "What's the density?" he growled, his voice gravelly but sharp. "Significant," Ava replied. "Fragments range from micrometeorite size to sections approximating 20 meters in length. Anomalous energy signature detected." An energy signature? Malinar Wialon, the medical officer, leaned forward from her station. Her slender, almost human frame, paired with her gray-blue fur and empathetic gaze, contrasted sharply with the captain's imposing figure. "A distress beacon?" "Uncertain," Ava replied. "The pulse pattern is rudimentary but deliberate. Binary sequence 1-1-0-1-1-0-1-0-1-1-1. Cabo's ears flattened. "Binary? Primitive." Malinar's ears twitched. "Primitive or not, it's a signal, and council protocol mandates that we investigate any potential survivors." Cabo grumbled but nodded. "Fine," Ava pinpointed the source. "Locking onto the signal," Ava confirmed. A moment later, a holographic schematic materialized, revealing a shattered cryopod adrift among the debris. Source identified: an intact life support module. Structural integrity, 68%. Life signs detected. "Life signs?" Malinar's fur bristled with urgency. "We have to bring it aboard." "Wait," Cabo interjected, his deep voice cutting through the moment. "Ava, analyze the debris design." "What are we dealing with?" Ava's tone shifted, laced with caution. "Preliminary analysis suggests the vessel originated from a death world. Crude construction, emphasis on redundancy and brute functionality." "Death world?" Cabo's muzzle curled into a grimace. "You're saying this being might be dangerous?" Malinar's empathetic senses flared as she stepped closer to the hologram. "Dangerous or not, Captain, they're alive. That's reason enough to help." For a long moment, Cabo's gaze bore into hers before he sighed heavily. "Fine. Ava, prepare an isolation habitat. And Malinar, you're in charge of retrieval and medical assessment. Let's hope this isn't a mistake." The cryopod was carefully maneuvered into the ship's quarantine bay. Its surface was scorched, the once bright alloy dulled by untold centuries drifting through the void. As the isolation field activated, Ava interfaced with the cryopod's onboard systems. "Cryopod AI responding," Ava announced. "Its databanks are fragmented but functional, attempting linguistic synchronization." Within moments, the two AIs began exchanging bursts of information. The cryopod's AI, an ancient system designated Aurora, transmitted its limited data. The ship's catastrophic failure, the prioritization of life support for a single occupant, and the binary distress signal it had maintained for millennia. "Synchronization incomplete," Ava noted. "Aurora's lexicon is insufficient for full translation. Additional data required. Aurora's programming has stubbornly clung to its main directive, to keep its occupant alive at all costs. Despite fragmented systems and limited power, it maintained life support, preserving him as the sole survivor of his section." Malinar's fingers danced over her console as she studied the lifeform's biosignature. "This being is an omnivore," she said, her voice tinged with a mix of scientific curiosity and awe. "Remarkably similar to my own physiology, yet extraordinary. The stress markers indicate an astonishing adaptation to extreme conditions, radiation, fluctuating gravity, and even prolonged nutritional deprivation. By all accounts, his biology should have failed long before now, yet it endures. His seeming fragility is deceptive. This level of resilience is almost unprecedented in my studies." To Cabo, everything Malinar had just said boiled down to one alarming conclusion. "Death Worlder," Cabo muttered under his breath, his fur bristling as the weight of the revelation settled over him. "We should keep the cryopod sealed," he added firmly, his voice edged with tension. "A being like this could pose a risk to the entire ship." Malinar turned to him, her voice calm but resolute. "Captain, the AI on board his pod, Aurora, is too corrupted to provide the linguistic framework we need. Without direct interaction, we can't build a lexicon, and without communication, we can't fully understand his intentions." Ava interjected, her tone precise. "Malinar is correct. Aurora's remaining data is fragmented beyond recovery for linguistic synchronization. The only viable option is to wake him and allow real-time interaction to refine the lexicon. Cabo's eyes narrowed as he weighed their arguments. "And you're certain this is the only way?" "It is," Malinar said, her empathy reaching out to reassure both Cabo and herself. "I'll handle the situation personally. We've already taken every precaution." Cabo exhaled heavily, his fur rippling with the motion. "Fine, but if this goes wrong, it's on you, Malinar." The cryopod hissed as its seal released, vapor spilling into the isolation chamber. Malinar stepped forward, her calm demeanor masking her own unease. Inside lay a young male, his features sharp and angular, his dark hair matted against his pale skin. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths as his eyes fluttered open. He jolted upright, confusion and fear flashing across his face as he took in the alien surroundings. His gaze locked onto Malinar, who raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice imbued with the natural empathy of her kind. Though the words were meaningless to him, her tone seemed to calm him. The young man's lips moved, forming sounds that Ava quickly recorded for linguistic analysis. His voice was steady, but his eyes darted around the room, assessing every detail with sharp intelligence. Malinar's empathetic senses caught his unease, a whirlwind of emotions that painted a vivid picture of his mental state. Fear radiated strongest, sharp and primal, yet beneath it lay a stubborn determination to understand his surroundings. Interwoven with these was a deep curiosity, tinged with a flicker of hope that tempered his apprehension. She smiled gently, projecting reassurance. "Ava," Cabo growled over the comms. "How long until we know what he's saying?" "Progressing," Ava replied. "However, his language appears to be from an uncharted origin. A complete lexicon will take time. I am analyzing phonetics, syntax, and contextual probability based on the fragments Aurora has provided, but the process requires cross-referencing with our existing linguistic databases to establish patterns. Additionally, Aurora has shared key events. The section containing his cryopod was severed from the main vessel during catastrophic turbulence in FTL transit. The ship carried approximately 250,000 passengers, but only his segment survived. Aurora's protocols prioritized his life over the 16 others in the same section due to his age and the limited power supply from the remaining solar arrays. He has been adrift for at least 10 millennia, a span so vast that the universe around him has moved on in ways we can scarcely comprehend. Cabo's ears twitched, his voice cutting through the tension. "Millennia? How many exactly?" "Precise dating is difficult, but it exceeds 10,000 years, Ava replied. "The original ship was designed for colonization, with a complement of 250,000 souls. This survivor is the sole remnant of their mission." Malinar's gaze never left the young man. For a moment, her empathic abilities wavered under the weight of Ava's revelations, a flood of sorrow and disbelief breaking through her disciplined calm. But she steadied herself, grounding her emotions and radiating a sense of peace and reassurance toward him. "We have all the time he needs. He's been alone long enough." Max sat motionless in the faint light of the isolation chamber, his dark eyes scanning every detail of the room and its alien occupants. It had been a full-day cycle, or at least what he presumed was a day based on the steady hum of the ship's systems and the rhythmic shift of the ambient lighting. His mind buzzed with calculations, observations, and plans. He couldn't afford a mistake. The crew that had saved him, a mix of species unlike anything he'd ever imagined, moved about the chamber in slow, deliberate movements, no doubt trying to keep him at ease. He could see their curiosity, especially from the one closest to him, Malinar, the blue-gray alien who had an almost human-like frame. Her presence was calm and watchful, though he could feel her gaze lingering on him as if trying to read his emotions. Taking a deep breath, Max decided it was time to take action. Slowly, deliberately, he began to move. He shifted his legs, stretched his arms, and leaned forward to access the compartment at the base of his cryopod. The sound of the latch clicking open drew Malinar's attention, and she watched intently as he pulled out several vacuum-sealed items. First came the colony jumpsuit, a dark gray outfit designed for functionality over fashion, followed by socks and boots that he methodically slipped on. Next, he retrieved his survival belt, securing it around his waist with practiced efficiency. Each movement was precise and deliberate, avoiding any sudden motions that might alarm his watchers. The final item he retrieved was a sealed pack of survival rations. The pack contained 30 compact brick-like bars, each designed to provide maximum nutrition with minimal mass. He didn't retrieve his mag pistol or its holster, deciding it was better to leave them hidden for now. Malinar tilted her head, her empathetic senses picking up a faint determination and a hint of wariness from him as he unwrapped one of the bars. The dense, unappetizing block of processed plant matter didn't look like much, but it was a lifesaver in the void of space. When he took a bite, Malinar's curiosity turned to unease. As an omnivore, Max's choice to eat plant matter exclusively intrigued her. Was it a cultural decision? A sign of distrust? Despite her concerns, she was startled when he broke off a small piece and offered it to her, holding it out with an expression that seemed both cautious and inviting. She accepted the morsel carefully, scanning it with her handheld medical analyzer. Ava's voice chimed through the speakers a moment later. Analysis complete. The ration consists of 100% processed plant matter, hyperdense in nutritional value. It is compatible with Malinar's biology and contains no harmful compounds. Additionally, several food items aboard this ship could serve as substitutes should he exhaust his supply. The revelation left Malinar both impressed and puzzled. Why would a species as robust as his, classified as a deathworlder, rely on plant-based rations? She filed the thought away for later study. Max ate only half the bar before carefully resealing the pack. He didn't need the full amount, not while his metabolism was still recovering from cryosleep. He had other priorities now, like communication. His dark eyes swept over the aliens again, noting small metallic implants in various locations on their bodies. He surmised these were likely translator devices. Coupled with their advanced AI, communication would be possible, but it might take time. Moving with the same deliberate care, Max retrieved his survival tablet from the cryopod's compartment. The device was rugged and unassuming, designed for colony use. It served as a multi-purpose tool for scanning, analysis, and data storage, but its most valuable feature was its networking capability. Before activating it, Max discreetly removed a small chip embedded in the tablet, a chip containing Earth's location and humanity's star maps. Using sleight of hand, he slipped the chip into a hidden pocket in his survival belt. He couldn't risk giving away that information. Once the tablet was ready, Max initiated a handshake request, sending a signal to the alien ship systems. He hoped the gesture would demonstrate his willingness to cooperate and aid in bridging the linguistic divide. Ava detected the signal instantly. Captain, the human has activated a device and sent a handshake request. It appears to be a rudimentary environmental scanner paired with communication and data storage capabilities. Shall I accept? Cabo, standing on the other side of the isolation chamber, frowned deeply. His ursine features betrayed his suspicion. Can we trust it? For all we know, it could be a threat. Malinar interjected, her voice calm but firm. Captain, he's clearly trying to communicate. If he meant us harm, he wouldn't be so cautious. Ava added, based on my analysis, the device is harmless. It aligns with Council-era standards of rudimentary technology. Accepting the handshake will allow me to expedite the linguistic decryption process. Additionally, he appears to be actively assisting me by transmitting structured data for analysis. Cabo's ears twitched in frustration, but he relented. Fine. Proceed with caution, Ava. But keep me informed. Understood, Ava replied. Within moments, Max's survival tablet synced with Ava's systems. Streams of binary data flowed between the two devices, and Ava's linguistic decryption advanced rapidly. Malinar glanced at Max, who watched the exchange intently. He seemed relieved, though his guarded expression never fully faded. She could feel the cautious hope radiating from him, a hope tempered by mistrust and the heavy burden of whatever secrets he carried. Ava's voice broke the silence. With this additional data, I estimate that basic communication will be possible within 1 to 2 standard cycles. The human's cooperation has significantly accelerated the process. Cabo crossed his arms, his gaze fixed on Max. Let's hope he's as cooperative as he seems. For all our sakes. Max met the captain's eyes for the first time, his expression unreadable. Whatever he was thinking, he kept it to himself, but the tension in the room was palpable. Malinar stepped closer, offering Max a small, reassuring smile. Though the gesture couldn't bridge the language barrier, she hoped it conveyed a simple message. You're not alone anymore. Max leaned back against the cool interior of his cryopod, his eyes fixed on the screen of his survival tablet. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the system's clock. The date was unmistakable, 14-239. A sharp breath escaped him. 10 to 5 and 87 years. The number sat like a weight in his chest, pressing against the growing knot of isolation in his mind. Humanity was out there. He had to believe that. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to push the revelation aside. There was no time to grieve. No time to dwell on the centuries lost or the fates of the 250,000 souls aboard his colony ship. He would hold on to hope and focus on what he could control: survival and communication. Max's plan was simple. Science was universal and logic was a bridge he could build. Slowly, methodically, he retrieved a stylus and began sketching on his tablet. Using Ava's pattern recognition capabilities, he created crude illustrations of atomic elements: hydrogen, helium, carbon. Next to each, he added their atomic numbers, weights, and electron configurations, layering information with precision. Ava identified the first few elements with ease, translating their names into Council standard symbols. Each time she responded correctly, Max built on the foundation, introducing new elements and progressively more complex atomic structures. Within hours, they had aligned most of Earth's periodic table with the Council's. Malinar observed quietly from the observation deck. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the human as he worked, his focus absolute. Her empathic senses were bombarded by his emotions. The faint flickers of hope under layers of determination, the frustration of trial and error, and the cautious curiosity that kept him pushing forward. "Ava," Malinar asked softly, "what's he doing?" "Max Williams is establishing a shared knowledge base in science," Ava replied, her voice neutral yet impressed. "He has yet to communicate verbally but is rapidly aligning atomic data with our periodic standards. While his knowledge is extensive, his periodic table lacks certain elements unique to Council discoveries. He appears to be using this as a foundation for broader communication." Malinar blinked in disbelief. "He's building a lexicon from science alone?" "Correct. It is an unconventional approach. Most species prioritize language or symbols, but Max's methodology is efficient for long-term comprehension." As the hours passed, Max shifted his focus to mathematics, using atomic numbers as the basis for defining numerical values. He built simple equations and patterns, progressing to complex mathematical functions, geometric shapes, and visualized formulas. Ava mirrored his progress, her algorithms interpreting his intentions. By mid-morning, Max pivoted back to chemistry, testing Ava's ability to recognize compounds. Progress slowed as he hit a wall. The AI struggled to interpret his intent when illustrating molecular bonds. Unfazed, he adjusted, reinforcing the mathematical groundwork and interweaving it with scientific principles. Around midday, Ava reported her findings to Malinar. "The subject has begun integrating Council standard numerical systems into his device. He is creating a cipher to enable faster and more seamless data exchange between us." Malinar's brow furrowed as she watched Max's deliberate motions. "He's building a cipher? From scratch?" "Correct," Ava confirmed. "While the first 3 attempts failed due to inconsistencies, he has adapted his approach with remarkable efficiency. His understanding of programming is highly advanced, rivaling our own Council engineering methodologies." "Unbelievable," Malinar murmured. Cabo's voice cut through their discussion, sharp and skeptical. "Are we certain this is just raw intelligence and not pre-programmed behavior? He could be a danger, maybe even a spy." Ava responded, unperturbed by Cabo's tone. "My analysis shows no signs of pre-programming or implanted behavior. Max's actions indicate adaptive problem-solving, not automation. His methods suggest years of study and application." Cabo grumbled but said nothing more. Max, still working tirelessly, barely registered Malinar's presence until a faint hum drew his attention. A holographic interface materialized before him, projected by Malinar's activation of the ship's environmental systems. The sudden display startled him, but after a moment of hesitation, he approached the hologram with cautious curiosity. Using both the holographic interface and his tablet, Max began multitasking. On the hologram, he constructed complex 3-dimensional models of elements, compounds, and molecular structures. At the same time, he used the tablet to refine the cipher he was building, comparing data between the 2 systems in real time. Malinar was left speechless. The way Max moved between the systems, seamlessly integrating them into his workflow, was astonishing. She had suspected the human was intelligent, but this was beyond her expectations. "He's multitasking," Malinar said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. "Not just adjusting the data, but rethinking it, rebuilding it as he goes. Ava, is this normal for his species?" "Unknown," Ava replied. "However, his methodology is highly unorthodox compared to the Council's standard approach. It prioritizes meaning over direct linguistic translation. If perfected, it could revolutionize how we integrate new species into the Council. Malinar shook her head, her empathy picking up faint traces of frustration and satisfaction emanating from Max. He's trying to meet us halfway, she realized. He's not just solving problems, he's creating a way for us to understand each other. As the cycle drew to a close, Max's progress was undeniable. His cipher had reached its 4th iteration, and while still imperfect, Ava noted significant advancements. The holographic display was now populated with a wealth of information, a shared repository of scientific and mathematical knowledge that had grown exponentially since the morning. For Max, the day's work had been grueling but rewarding. Every calculation, every model, every equation was a step closer to understanding these aliens and their world. He didn't know if humanity was still out there, but he had to believe that forging this connection was the first step to finding out. For Malinar, the day was one of revelation. She had seen intelligence before, even brilliance, but this was something different. Max wasn't just adapting, he was innovating, creating pathways of understanding that hadn't existed before. "Captain," Malinar said quietly as she watched Max continue to work, "I think we've underestimated him." Cabo's voice was gruff but laced with begrudging respect. "We'll see." And as the faint hum of the ship filled the silence, Max kept going, driven by a singular hope, that he was building more than just knowledge. He was building a bridge,